Welcome to my video about Albion Online's early access. Now obviously, this is more of a simple video about what you can do and less in depth. For me personally, I have no clue how to make videos, so I just thought about making a presentation, so please bear with me. First of all, how do people start? Well, there is basically nothing. No silver, no gold, no mats, no stations, no mounts. Well, to be completely true, there's gonna be stations up to tier 3, but if you're already like 4 to 5 hours into the game, those won't really matter. So it's always to have good in mind that literally anything you will do will make way more money than what you're used to on the current servers. For gold, well, this is probably one of the more interesting parts. Gold is going to be very cheap on early access. Gold started around 500 on East, and it dropped a little bit below 400. I don't quite remember the amount, but it dropped quite a bit. It ended on day 1 on 1.8k silver per gold, which is still very cheap. So my tip here, for anyone that's going to play early access, whenever you go offline, buy gold. The next day, you're gonna be richer. It's just how the game works. We come to the first activity that you could do, and that's just straight up farming silvers. Especially for the first couple of hours, there's gonna be literally no silver in the game. So even farming open world mobs might just be a play. Every silver you make can be converted into gold, and if gold is really that cheap that it reaches down to like 300, maybe 400, it's gonna be a good play. So farming open world mobs might just be the first options for the first couple of hours. Then we come to statics. Probably a huge difference maker, especially early on when the server launches. All bosses will be red, so farming early statics and getting those gold chests might just be one of the biggest things. Obviously, you will only get silver and runes at the very start from chests, but you gotta keep in mind, even runes, even the tier 4 runes will be very expensive at the very start, because people will try to enchant their weapons from tier 4 to 4.1. So that might just be a very good option to get into. Now, next we're gonna have tracking. Very underrated. It might just be a huge thing at the very start of the game, and since it's very easy to do as well, it might just be an option. It does require open world, but it might just be worth the risk. Obviously, open world chests gonna be just as nice. Next, we're gonna have outposts and castles for guilds. Gonna be absolutely massive, especially for the first 2 to 3 days. If you're a top guild and you're not going for every outpost and castle timer, I think you're doing something wrong. Now, for the very strong players, 5v5 and 20v20 will be a huge option. Making 1 to 2 million silver at the very start of the game, especially since 5v5 and 20v20 will be available 2 hours after launch, might just make you the first 1 or 2 mil. Now, the first 1 or 2 mil will equal around 40 to 50 mil in current value on West. It's just because gold is very cheap in that hours. So always keep that in mind. If you're a strong guild with strong players, this might be a play. Next, we're gonna have crafting for royal cities. Especially day 1, PvE weapons like nature stuffs, fire stuffs and mace might just be a play to go for. Obviously those are gonna be the most used weapons on day 1, just because they're very strong in simple PvE. Then we're gonna have for PvE weapons, especially mist weapons like dual swords, one-hand dagger and bow are gonna be very strong. Gotta keep in mind, there's gonna be no artifacts in the game, or very few. So going non-artifact weapons might just be the play here. There's tools. You can never go wrong with tools on the very start of the game. There's gonna be a lot of gatherers and everybody will need a tool. Tools will be very expensive at the start of the game. So for crafters, this might just be a huge play. When it comes to day 2 plus, literally anything you craft is gonna make you money. Anything you sell, Everything is needed, and there's actually nothing on the market. So keep that in mind. Next, obviously, probably one of the very big things is going to be gathering. All the zones are going to be full, all the nodes are going to be full. If you're the first one or the first 30 players to make it to a certain tier, you're gonna make bank. Especially if you consider all those 6.4, 7.4 and 8.4 nodes are probably gonna be uncontested because just simply nobody can gather it. So it might just be a play to grind your way through. Obviously, there's a lot of time and power needed inside the player, so it's up to you to put that work. Mounts. Obviously, mounts are gonna be huge, especially on release month. There's gonna be no bear like last time on East launch. This time it's gonna be a panther, so there's no carry mounts. Especially gatherers or crafters will need carry mounts like oxes or faction mounts like bears and boars. Those are gonna be very expensive, so if you're looking to make mounts, you cannot go wrong. It's a good investment. Next, obviously faction warfare. Especially elite mounts like the elite boar or the elite bear are gonna be very popular for the first couple of months. It might just be the play to go for those. Faction warfare will also bring you capes. Since there's going to be no capes, especially for the black market, capes will go for very good prices. So it might just be the play to look into. Let me actually put one more thing. The first couple faction mounts, especially the elite ones, sold for 10 to 40 mil. You cannot go wrong on that. It's a huge amount. If you have 10 baby cups, you're selling them for at least 100 mil plus. So keep that in mind. It's huge money. You should try it out. Obviously, you cannot forget the plots. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people want to get into it. You gotta keep in mind, there is a catch though. Since there's a high amount of money that can be made, there's also quite a good risk. First of all, it's going to be very competitive. And second of all, which is very unexpected, but people do not seem to realize, the lease is going to be half the normal time. The server launches mid-month, so you will not have a full lease like you would normally have. So you have less time to make you good profit. Obviously, you can never forget the one troll. I did plots on East, and I got trolled by 2 Chinese players. They did a good job, gotta give them that, gotta give them the credit, and they kinda made my shop not completely go worthless, but they kinda decreased the value by a very good margin. So it's always keep in mind, where there's high risk, where there's high money to be made, there is also high risk that comes with it. It's a lot of time as well, so keeping up with the shop, adding taxes, feeding the shop, building the shop, especially at the very start, might take you away from normal crafting time. So keep those things in mind. It's obviously a good thing to go, just there is a catch. When it comes to trading gold, now this might just be the biggest thing which will come this year on EU server. There was a player actually on Asian server. He made 250k gold just from farming silver and trading on the gold market. There's a lot of gold on the market fluctuating through hands, so gold putting decent sell and buy orders might just be a huge play. There's huge money to be made here. Just gotta be on it. You gotta know how the market works. You gotta know how trading gold works. It might just be the biggest thing to go for. Very underrated. Crafting on black market. Obviously, probably the biggest thing you could go for. But there's a huge risk. You gotta be the first. Obviously, down the line, even if you're not the first, you will have good margins. But if you're going for early access, you're looking for that huge money, like everybody else. So being the first is a big key in getting that huge money. The first to sell to tier 4 to tier 6 in the first day is gonna make a good leap in economy. So getting there first is gonna be a huge role. Obviously, the biggest numbers were made in bags and capes, as well as armor pieces. Though it's good to keep in mind, you're not gonna be reaching the first bags as a solo player. There's gonna be huge guilds. They're gonna look into that point, trying to print as much money from that as possible. Can never forget, especially for guilds or smaller groups, if you're fast enough, getting those memory timers is gonna be absolutely massive. The first memory cups, they sold for around 350 to 400 mil on East. It was absolutely massive. And having a timer means not just one cup, it means multiple. So for a big guild, this might be the biggest thing to go for. Each mammoth kill can drop up, it has a guaranteed 1 drop, and it can drop up to 3 pops, which is though very, very rare. But it's always to keep in mind, it might just be a 1 bill drop, if you're very lucky. Something that is extremely underrated, but probably the biggest money making method if you go as a solo player, which does include a good bit of swiping, is gonna be gear crutching on people in Mist. It's gonna happen just like on East. There's gonna be a couple of differences though to the normal Mist players. But keep in mind, everybody is worth something, and at the very start, even tier 4 is gonna be very expensive. So if you're gear crutching on people in 8.4 or 8.2, you're gonna make a ridiculous amount of money from each kill. And the funny part is, there is no empty mists. The mist is gonna be completely filled with people, especially on a server launch. So you're making a ridiculous amount of money. And to make it even better, everybody is gonna be on mules. A sprint is faster than anybody's mule. So you are literally farming players, and there's just no way around. There was one player that he made 4.5 bill from farming players in the first, I think it was first week. And he said he had a good chance of making the money because he didn't have to invest that money into anything but gold as well. So he would kill people while trading the gold market. Beautiful method, huge profit involved. It might just be the play for you, if you're swiping good enough. We come to the hidden OPs. We got a couple of hidden OPs. Obviously, mist capes, very underrated. There's gonna be a lot of mist players just going for kills. If you're one of the guys farming mist points actively, you might be the first. The first mist capes, when they were released, went for 1 to 2 bill. If you're the one of the guys that's gonna push mist capes all the way to the top, you might be making billions from it. So keep that in mind, it might be a way to go. Tracking, extremely underrated. It might just be one of the biggest thing actually. Just like on Black Market, if the first one to get a T8 artifact, or the first one to get the T8 shapeshifter weapons, or the Eagle weapon, they might just go for ridiculous prices. Next to that, those weapons are gonna be extremely popular on launch, especially because people wanna play mists. There's the strong weapons, there's gonna be very few of them, so there's only one thing those prices can be, they can be very expensive. Can't forget simple methods for smaller solo players. It's gonna be one of the best options probably if you're new to the game. It's gonna be flipping the market. It's very easy, very easily done. It's just buying items from rare cities, using runes and souls to enchant, maybe reroll the quality 1 or twice and sell it on Black Market. It is instant silver, easily done. It does require some time, but it can equal good profit over the time period. For bigger guilds, or especially if the guild is offering crafting runs, having a black zone hideout, especially deeper it goes, the better it gets. Having it, if you're you gotta keep in mind, everything is gonna have a good value already. So getting extra percentage on it is even better. You can never go wrong on those runs. I think if you have the option to do it, it's a must do, especially day 5 and plus. Extremely underrated. Extremely underrated. Might just be one of the biggest thing, especially since this is going to be very profitable all the way through the first 2 months. It's going to be potion crafting. An even bigger boost would be if you have a hideout. Not just any hideout, it has to be one of those road zones where you get potion crafting bonus. I had a guy, he made 10 mil a run, and he just constantly ran between city and his hideout through a portal, and he would make incredible amount of money. It's absolutely massive. That's because you have an advantage above any other player. So going for that, especially as a smaller guild or a medium group size, might just be the biggest thing to go for. I would suggest it to any, especially newer players or newer groups, to go for such a thing. It's absolutely massive. You cannot go wrong, especially if you have that road hideout. Simple and quick and easy money. If you don't know what to do, laborers are always a good play, especially early into the game. The labor is going to be very expensive. There's no risk, or there's barely any risk to it, and it's quick and easy money. It does require some work putting in the books in, but at the very start you will have that time usually, and it might just be a good play. Especially since the first couple of T8 laborers went for like 5 mil each on East. So it's a very good profit to go for, and they sell very fast as well. Next, if you like my content, please use my referral link. It's not a must. If you have friends that are gonna play on early access, don't use mine, use your friends. But if you don't have anybody, I would appreciate any help. I'm gonna put the link down in the description in the Reddit post. If you're free to do it, please take it. It would help me a lot. Much love to anybody that enjoys Albion EU launch. I'm gonna be one of those. I cannot wait. I'm absolutely hyped to get to abuse my 20 ping. So thank you for your time, and thank you for having me.